welcome back to Bunters Yard, and today we are going to weather this Bachmann Class 37, a lovely loco, one of my favourites, and this is for Mark, one of our Bunters Yard fans. Now the roof we're going to make a bit dirty, and the sides we want those weathered. We're going to fade those back rather than paint them. We're going to use a technique just to fade them back. You would have seen that before. And the first thing we need to do, I think, is to mask this up, and we'll put some colour on the bogies first. Now this is a mix of a dark brown and a black, just to really get something on there for the weathering powders to sort of grab onto, that we can use a bit later on, but just takes away that black newness, which we really can do without on this one. I don't go too heavy on this. We're going to use lots of powders and different colours later on anyway, but it's just really to have a surface to key into. So onto the side panels now. Lots of different ways to do this, but this is the way that I typically do this, and we've seen this before many times. But rather than just painting the whole thing again and adding new livery, we're using oil paints. This is the Winsor & Newton oil paints, and we are just brushing it in basically. And what will happen is that it will leave a little bit of white on there. You may get some patches, which in this case is absolutely fine. We're okay with that. And the effect is not as pronounced probably on the screen as it is in real life, but we'll see a different shot in a minute, hopefully. And the good thing about this is we can add or take away as much as we want. So if we overdo it, we can just use the correct thinners for oil paints and just wipe it off, or just use a cloth and just give it a good old rub, and it'll come off anyway, because it takes quite some time to sort of go off, probably overnight. And if you want to add some more, just dot some more on and then brush some more in. And as I say, we're not going to be too precise about blending it in totally, because we want some patches here and there. There may be panels that have been replaced and would have weathered differently anyway and faded to a different degree. So you can leave some panels completely unfaded, or you can fade others totally differently, a bit more, or even maybe use different colour oil. Maybe like a yellow may look interesting, given an interesting effect. What we've done before on other models when we've done this, we're not doing it on this particular one. I'll leave a link up the top to one we've done recently with different fades, is that you can just dab this with a sponge, just lightly moistened in the thinners, and it will take some of the white off, and it will leave that kind of mottled effect, which is quite a nice effect because it doesn't fade sort of consistently all the way across the panel. But you can see we're building it up here, and we can just leave in patches which are more faded than the other. And the yellow as well. Doesn't take too well to the yellow. It's not probably not as pronounced. It's a bit more subtle on the yellow, but still worth doing. And on that red stripe at the bottom as well, we need to get some on there, and that will fade that back to a nice sort of sun-drenched pink, I think. And just beware with this, as I say, it takes a while to dry, so just be careful with handling this, because you can easily rub it all off with your fingers, which on this particular model isn't an issue, because we want that kind of random beaten up effect, so that will work out perfectly well. So we've given the whole thing a coat of lacquer and let that dry off. And then we're going to carry on with one of my new favourite colours, which is this smoke from Vallejo, and I've mixed this down probably a little bit thinner than I normally would, so probably 3 parts thinner to 1 part of paint. And the idea is just to give like it's really just a nice transition between the black that we're going to use in a little bit and the paint work, and gives that sort of smoky, well, as it says on the tin, really, that smoke effect. And we're not going too heavy with this, as I have mixed it down quite thinly, relatively speaking, and I'm using it very light sort of pressure. And I'm not trying to fill in the the vents or anything. It's just a matter of just to get that transition around that. We're going to add some other colours in a bit anyway. And then on the top, we want to get the top nice and dirty. And the main idea of this is just to get some of the smoke into the sort of creases and the crevices. And I'm just randomly wiping this back, and you can see it's picking out some of that nice detail. And then around this this exhaust fan at the top. Now I'm trying to not get too much in the middle of the fan, because obviously that's the innards of the loco there. Although the fan is just sort of free spinning, it won't sort of foul that up if it if we get any paint on it. But I didn't want to get any paint inside the actual electronics of the loco, so we just skirted around the edge. And on the front, just a little bit on the top, along the front as well of the and the rears of the loco, just to make it a little bit more dirty. And then we're using this is plain black. Again, I've mixed this down a little bit thinner than normal, and I'm using a very light pressure. I didn't want this to come out sort of totally black and just cover everything. The idea is it's a soot effect. So just trying to be a bit frugal with the that's a good word. Frugal with the use of the paint. Restrained, maybe that might be a better word. I don't know. And then on the on these vents, we're going to add some black in. Again, we're not going right up to the edge. We want to leave this smoky transition in place. So you'll see a bit of both of those. Kind of makes a bit more sense. Hopefully now you can see it. Very difficult on the yellow part not to go too over the top and add too much of this black. So I'm just trying to be very careful here. The airbrush is getting blocked. I gave it a little service after this, so it's a bit trigger happy. If you go too far on the trigger, suddenly it will blast out and everything gets covered. So yeah, that had a service in between one of these shots here, but anyway, it's working now. But I'm just using that piece of tissue at the bottom just to get used to sort of finding the muscle memory. And the thing is, if you're using an airbrush with these short sort of light bursts, what will happen is that the needle will clog up and will need more cleaning than you normally would if you're using it on full pelt. So that's one of the reasons for just shooting onto that tissue there, just to clear the nozzle off a little bit. So a line of black down the middle. Don't want to make it too obvious. Don't want to make it a sort of a definite sort of line, but it's just really a dirty patch. And then across the bonnets, these seem to get really dirty. And I'm not being too precise again, so if some of it bleeds down the side of the fronts and the backs, then that's absolutely great. You can see on that one, by the way, on that I've used the white as well, just to fade it a little bit. I wasn't sure if it was going to show in the final finish, really, because we're using different colours on the top. But anyway, that did have a little of the white fade on that top of the bonnet surface, that black surface. And then just randomly wiping back the windscreens, both ends. So our next colour is, we just added a bit of dirt now, so this is US Dark Earth, I think it's called. I'll put the link down in the description for all the colours I've used as usual. And this is just to sort of blend the body in with the chassis and the bogies, really, just rather than having, you know, in two different colours. It just kind of ties them together a little bit. And then onto our weathering powders now, because we've added some paints onto the bogies already. The weathering powders will sort of grab onto that quite nicely, and we use then just a dark rust and a mixture of the brighter rust as well, and Humbrol weathering powder, the dark earth, which is one we use on most of our models. We seem to like that one. Again, all the colours are in the description down below, so you can, if you particularly like an effect, then you can choose the colours. You just click on the link, and that will take you to Amazon, where you can have a look and see if you fancy them. Then on these battery boxes, these are going to get a bit of the dark rust as well. This is just to simulate, not necessarily dark rust, but sort of earth and dirt, and obviously rust as well. And then we'll use the black from Humbrol as well. And this is, maybe there's been some sort of oil spill or something like that. That's the idea there. Now once that's done, we need to seal everything with our matte acrylic lacquer. This is the polyurethane from Vallejo that we use, and this just dulls everything down. And the thing with the powders is that some of the colours will change ever so slightly, so on the bogies just beware that those colours may not be quite as saturated, especially when it's wet. When it dries, it may go back, so just experiment with that. And because we've just used the varnish on the top, it's still a little bit tacky, so we're just going to add some extra powders in, and then we'll just give that another coat, just a light coat over the top, just to seal everything in again. And you can see as you go across that patch that we've just done in the middle by those two exhaust vents, as you put your varnish across that, it does colours that will change ever so slightly. But it's quite important to put this varnish on, especially if the model's going to be handled a lot, because otherwise everything will just basically come off on your fingers, and it just gives it an extra, some extra protection. Not essential, preferable, but maybe not essential. And then on the bogies and those battery boxes, you can see the colours changed ever so slightly. And the windows, we didn't want to sort of mask those. I just wanted it to look as if someone's just cleaned it with a rag, basically. And that's it. We are done. And thanks for Mark for sending this one. I think Mark's got another one to send on. Hopefully he's going to be pleased with this, and we'll be able to show his next loco here on Bunters Yard. So thanks for watching. Thanks again to Mark for sending this one in, and we'll see you very soon at Bunters Yard.